Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Blank. Mike from, I guess he's now previously known as Wack Brackets. Now he's going to be known as, I forgot the freaking name.
The
It's University
multiverse of badness.
Damn it. I was trying to guess it. Why the shift? Did you just feel like it was time to move on to something where you can poke fun at the comics?
Many different reasons. Probably the biggest reason is, and you know this, being a solo podcaster, is that it can be difficult at times to find people to reach out to. And I know your podcast, you do a fantastic job of just keeping kind of a conversation going. Mine was a little more specific. We came up with a very specific idea and a concept and a bracket style. And I would have to come up with that. I would have to run it by somebody to say, first I had to find somebody, I had to run it by them. They approve, disapprove. I come back, I massage it. It took a long time. So even these 20, 30-minute episodes between the back and forth, it was taking hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. And it was just difficult. It just too time consuming, I think, for the end product, and like a little bored, as well as being a solo podcaster. You know this, it's kind of difficult to be your own guy, kind of get that motivation every time to get it going and keep it going. So I reached out to a friend of ours, a mutual friend, Zach, previously from the Fried Penguin News podcast, and he thought that we could pull this off. So we're recording our first episode later today.
That's awesome, because yeah, it's a good combo. I mean, you guys have done collaborations in the past too, but I mean, just the comic section of it, really, that I thought it died. I really did. I thought that, like, because there was a giant rise and trend to it, but it's just been it's coming back, and I think it's because the way Disney has their fingers in fucking everything, man. I don't know where it's coming from. Like, you find out they're like sponsored by Pfizer or something. I'm like, what the hell is that going on? But it's like, no, they have little pockets, they have their hands and everything. But it's that also with their films and their TV series, they've really like dropped them like perfectly in sync with each other, like leaving a message at the end of the new Venom to lead into the multiverse type thing. And then also, if you look through all their shows, Loki, WandaVision, oh God, what's the other one? What If? They all kind of collaborate into each other. Now, you're not tackling the shows, though. You're tackling the basic comics, though.
We're going to attack it two ways. We're actually looking at comic books and not the comic series. I think that a lot's being overdone podcast-wise on comic series. And no offense to anybody that does one of those podcasts, but I can only listen to so much of a breakdown of a episode by 10 different people, and 90% of it is duplicative and just not. I would rather watch it and come up with my own conclusions. But the thing about comic books is that they're rich and they're ripe for kind of talking about, because there are hundreds of thousands of comic books, individual issues. And what we're trying to do is, for instance, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you see a lot of the better villains, or you see maybe a little drop here, a little drop there, something funny. What we're trying to do is, not every comic book villain or hero or even storyline was created the same. Some of them were just god awful, just to fill time. And these were issues that are coming out every week. And you can only be so motivated after you come off of a big Dr. Doom arc in Fantastic Four. You can only be so motivated to find a new villain. You can only fight Kang so many times. You can only fight Dr. Doom so many times. And you need to try to create a new villain or a new hero or a new story that's so different. And some of those fall flat, much like The Wire. The last season of The Wire fell flat. Or you'll see an episode of a great series and it'll feel like a throwaway episode. I know Breaking Bad gets a lot of, differing opinion of the Fly episode. And I found the Fly episode to be very boring. But to me, it was very much we just need to fill time because we want to tell this story. We want to tie it in with this story. We need to have X amount of episodes, and we have too few. So let's come up with just some weird concept. And I feel that's the way with some of these comics sometimes, is they just need a weekly filler. And to do that, they come up with some really, really shitty characters sometimes. And that's what Zach and I are doing, are finding these gems and nuggets of garbage inside of otherwise fantastic comic book story arcs.
Usually, like at late at night, I'm watching like some type of YouTube video about explaining certain things, because I think Marvel drops a lot of hints to other comic book references. Like every license plate that's in Spider-Man No Way From or Far From Home is apparently a comic reference. There's one, it's ASM 8183 or something like that. So Amazing Spider-Man, and then it's 81 is the comic issue, that 83 is the year it came out, and then it happens to be that one comic is the Spectacular Spider-Man. The only time he
Mhm.
was referenced as Spectacular Spider-Man. Like, that's cool as shit, but like if you're just a
Right,
fan watching a movie that doesn't know any of the comic stuff, you don't know to look up any of this shit. So I'm like,
right.
can someone give me a breakdown, or someone like can you like when I'm doing this film that I'm making, I'm trying to find references of stuff that people that an average person would just understand, whether that's you're pumping up your gas and then you
Mhm.
see the price of it and you freak the hell out. I don't know, but just something simple where it can resonate with a lot of people, because I feel like there's a lot of individual moments which are important, but the crucial moments, like the key moments in society or key moments in people as a whole, a sunset and a sunrise. Everyone experiences a sunset and a sunrise at the same time of day, most of the time, unless you're in a different time zone. But like if you're sitting next to someone, but you're experiencing the same thing, but it's two different experiences only because you guys are taking in something completely different from each other. Like I've started to notice that more because with working on the film, I'm doing like a space style thing to it. I don't want to get too in depth with it, but my buddy who's a radio astronomer out in Africa, he was sending me a video of his observatory at night. The fucking stars, man. You can see like the galaxy, you can see all
Mhm.
the everything. And I look up at night and I see a star that might possibly be a planet or a satellite. Sometimes it blinks. And I'm just like, damn it, like there are people experiencing the exact same thing at you in this world right now that are experiencing it in a completely different way, either because it's open to them in a way or because that they're just open to looking for that. And I think it helps define who you are as a person in a way. I'm not trying to get super deep with it, but on an aspect of like you start to uncover more things that you necessarily weren't ready to lose when you start coming across them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. It is. That's the fascinating thing with detail, and it's funny because you were talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe detail. I don't see a lot of the detail the uber, I won't call them nerds, that's the wrong term, but the fanboys really get
Legions,
into.
legions.
Yeah, yeah, but it's there, and there's an appreciation from my side because sometimes I will catch that if I'm really into something. You can catch a little detail in a series that maybe someone else missed. I can't remember what I was watching with my wife recently. If anyone sees, it's not a great movie, but there's one of my favorite artists is Todd Snyder, and he actually had a movie come out recently. It was a movie about one of his songs called "Hard Luck Love Song" is the name of the movie, and it has Michael Dorman from Patriot, which is one of my favorite shows. And the entire movie, they were dropping references to Todd Snyder songs, which to me, I picked up probably the majority of them because Todd Snyder is one of my favorite artists. But to my wife, who's also a Todd Snyder fan, she missed quite a few of those references, but she's not as into it as I am. Didn't detract from the movie. And I think that's the thing. It's kind of like icing on a cake, or that may be the wrong term because some people just fucking love icing and hate the cake. But it's salt, or it's an added flavor that someone may appreciate. And like you said, it's salt for me, so I taste a little different than my wife, who may not get that extra flavor. But we still both appreciated what we saw, and I think you were talking about astronomy, which is fascinating, of course, and the fact that when you're down here and you can't tell the difference between a planet and a star most of the time, but if you're in an observatory and you can actually zoom in and see something at much greater detail, even though you're seeing it hundreds of miles away differently than your friend who might be in the observatory, he's seeing a much greater detail and a much finer detail at a appreciation level that you're probably not getting, and you may appreciate it just as much or more depending on your mood. And just even to look up and realize the vastness of the universe, you don't necessarily need to know the detail of a planet or star to be amazed that the light I'm seeing from that star is tens of thousands of years old, and it's just finally now arriving here. So to the same you can get to the same conclusion or different conclusions, but maybe you're just seeing things in a different way.
It's a great euphemism for like, I guess all that you know is all that you know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's weird because I think it opens up doorways and opportunities to understand that there's always more out there than what you think, not just
oh
in the
yeah,
realm of space, but in any aspect of your life. And it makes it very challenging because I think this is probably the one time in the history so far that has really had a huge content support. There's always been brand loyalty, but it seemed like it died. And then it kind of has now been this new era of rebirth, which is just a bunch of people. And don't get me wrong, let's say DC makes a really good film. All the Marvel people are switching over, at least all the new ones.
Right.
But back in the day, they used to have people that would just drink Coke, military people that used, like, Coke was a major factor in Agent Orange, but they support Coke because they always drank Coke. Now the chemicals, like, it leads into this whole thing. There's a book called Seed Industry, is it Seed Money? Um, Guy was studying the crop infectants like they use in Agent Orange, or the same one that they use in Monsanto's on this crop that they use basically on crops that actually affects
Mhm.
the population there. But there's a lot of people there that support Coke undyingly in that specific area, knowing full well what their chemical capabilities are in their crops and all the type of stuff that they do that's horrible industry wise. They just have blind support because it was a big brand loyalty thing back in the day. You know, the
Mhm.
military sponsored Coke, all these types of things that started to happen. Pepsi, it would look at you a little bit different. And I think now is kind of like the same thing. You have the Marvel, you have the DC people going back and forth across each other, but there's not really any hardcore dire loyalty like there used to be. I heard Snoop Dogg talking about this in a podcast where he talked about East versus West. And he goes, back then it was like East and West, like a rap song. You guys would rap, and then would you know say something to somebody, then they would create a rap song, and the rap song. Then it became people killing other people. And then it got to a point where it was like, oh shit, this is escalated to a point where this is not what I wanted. I wanted to create music. I wanted to have this type of thing. I wanted to have my style. It was supposed to be an online beef, like how social media is. And that's kind of like how it escalates a lot too, is that people can't separate this from that. And it becomes this feud type thing where now there's people from East and West that rap all the time in songs. Biggest feud was Biggie and Tupac. You see that
Right.
with DC and Marvel. Everyone talks about that. I just look at it like, it's kind of the same concept of things besides different characters that play the stories. And it's interesting because I think there's a friendly rivalry that's supposed to be important, whether you're a DC or Marvel fan. It's hard to find anybody who's loyal in that aspects.
Yeah, and I think it's going to depend on what you grew up with.
I saw
And
that. Did you want me to pause?
no, no, I'm
Okay.
good. It's the good news is it's just water. It's carbonated water, so I don't have fucking Coke all over my fucking
I'll
floor.
say, because that
So
was me,
that's
I'd be freaking.
no, that's all right. My floor is a fucking mess anyway. But I think it's going to depend on, like you said, loyalty is one thing, I guess. Uh, I'm I'm not overly loyal. I am loyal to people. I'm loyal to family. I'm loyal to my job. I'm loyal to the things I do. But as far as products, I don't have that blind loyalty, so I can't really get into it. I do understand a little bit of it. If you grew up like I did with Spider-Man, I grew up when Spider-Man was the center of the Marvel universe and it wasn't Iron Man. And I was loyal to Spider-Man. And trust me, I read and bought a lot of shitty Spider-Man comics where I would have gave up on other characters long before because I would be like, oh, well, it's Spider-Man. They'll turn it around. It's Spider-Man. So I think we all get caught up in a little loyalty. It's more of a faith, a trust that something that did you right in the past will do you right again. And at some point, though, I'm pretty quick to give up on that anymore because things are just really different shades of others. I'll give you an example of the loyalty that drives me the most insane right now is loyalty to Apple products. Never understood it. Apple actually ruined text messaging for the average person because of their iMessage. So if you're on a Android phone like I am, a cheap shit Android phone that you can buy for $200 does exactly what your iPhone does, and it's a great product. But the problem is if you're on a group message with people that are on iPhone, you won't necessarily get all the messages. And that's because of iPhone's proprietary iMessaging. So they avoid SMS and MMS messaging and do their own little thing. And sometimes they drop poor little old me. And everybody's like, well, just get an iPhone. I'm like, why should I change when Apple's the one that's being a dick? If they use
Yeah.
the standard everybody else did,
Conform.
yeah, it's
Just
no, I'm not
conform,
going to do
Mike.
that.
Just
Yeah.
conform. It's
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah, well, I don't care if you don't think enough of me to send me a fucking message, and you're like, "Well, fuck Mike." I'm like, "Fuck you too."
Your mic cut out right when that happened too.
Oh no,
Oh wait, no, now you're back.
nope. Okay,
It just
that's
went
weird.
like it immediately stopped as soon as you said like, and
Huh.
then it just cut off right when you said the fuck, and then it just went, and I was like, that was priceless.
Yeah, it was self censoring. So yeah, I should do more of that. But like Apple with
Wait,
these.
did you do that on purpose? Wait, is that you really stopped talking when you started saying that?
No, I wish I had
Oh,
that kind of filter.
oh
No,
man.
but even with the iMessage I was bitching about, Apple has those damn fire cords or whatever that fray after about 2 months. Everybody I know that has an Apple cord, it
This
goes
one's
to
going
shit after
too.
about 3 months.
This one's going too. I got mine hooked up right now.
Yeah, but your cord goes to shit, and there's no logical reason for that.
Do you
If you
think
use a USB-C cord, I've never had a USB-C cord go to shit. I've washed them in the washing machine. I've run over them and shit. It's all fine. An Apple cord, you can sneeze on the motherfucker, it breaks into 17 parts.
Do you think that they're going to expand farther than that? You think after like Steve Jobs, they would be like, okay, Apple's just going to stay where it's at. We're not going to do any major innovations. I mean, Google tried Google Glass. Then they
Mm-hmm.
were like, nope, let's just shut that down. Do you think they're going to go farther? Like, I picture them being like major corporations that are eventually involved into a lot of stuff like Disney is. Like, Disney's involved into
Yeah.
way more than you think. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, I think it's going to end up leading that way where I don't necessarily want the companies like T-Mobile, for instance. When I say T-Mobile, you think of what?
Phones.
But where exactly would these phones be located?
Fuck if I know, just a cordless phone or yeah,
Kiosk stands in a
kiosks.
fucking mall.
I
But
don't go
now
to no goddamn mall.
now they have fucking like they have them actual in stores now, but nobody can separate them from the mall because that's all where you would see a T-Mobile store would be in a fucking mall. Verizon, for instance, a great it used by a lot, probably one of the main providers is Verizon. But then there's AT&T, even though you don't hear a lot about AT&T. Then there was that off-brand person with a Sprint, and you're like, who the fuck are you? It's these corporations are eventually going to start taking over things where was it Apple? Oh God, I forgot what they were just trying to buy recently. I'm gonna have to look it up, Mike.
That's okay. But I'll fill up space here while we do that. But yes, do they want to? Yes, but it's a competition anymore. And it really is a competition between every tech provider anymore. Everybody's into everything. Amazon is the easy, low hanging fruit because they're into cloud computing, they're into shopping, they're into Amazon Prime Video. So they're competing with Netflix, they're competing with Walmart. And they tried to get into the telephone business many years ago with the Amazon Fire phone. Actually, a decent phone. Where they fucked that up was that they didn't give you any discount on the phone. And what actually eventually killed the Fire phone wasn't the fact it wasn't a decent product. It was the fact that they would not integrate with the Android App Store. They tried to have their own App Store and they didn't lower the price on phones to make the App Store a reasonable place for developers to develop. And they shit the bed. Google recently had a foray into social media. They tried to get into a social media idea, and I think they've given up on that. Yes, Apple, they're under Apple TV. Will that last very long? They've got some decent shows right now, but who the fuck knows? So there's just so much competition. Apple's competing with Amazon's
Apple's
competing with
also
Facebook.
competing with Tesla. That's what
Yeah,
it was. They're making an electric car now. So I'm like,
right.
everybody's diving into these markets where I necessarily don't think everyone should be extending these to. Like, I think that there should be certain people that you label them or you categorize them as this because that's what they were initially intended for. Amazon, for instance, is probably one of the biggest people you could knock. Why the hell does Bezos feel like he needs to go into fucking outer space? Just deliver the damn packages. He already basically took out USPS.
Yeah.
USPS is like, I'm just fucking, we're going to get there when we get there. And it's like,
Mhm.
what? I've never heard that response from a service before. Like, we don't care. And like, the other day I had a package that was just in the front of my driveway, like all at the start of my driveway. I was like, it
Right.
wasn't even fucking heavy. It's like a
Yeah.
2 pound, 3 pound package. Like, no, I'm just gonna sit right here. I got other shit to do, and fucking drove off. And I'm like, that's what happens is you let these things in, and the goalpost starts moving. Then next thing you know, you're seeing like Apple's now doing tattoos, and Apple's now become a supply chain store. Everyone's out of like chain stuff. What is that? Is it chips? The chips that they're using, they were
Yeah.
running out of
Microchip.
those. And then, but before they were pushing them, they were putting them in everything. All these new innovations coming out. And next, thing you know, there's a chip shortage. Where the fuck you think the chips went? I'm looking at this thing of like, this is a very weird time economically, which I'm not gonna get super into. But I start to notice like the warning signs of like, hey, maybe we should like put some limiters on this stuff. It seems like everyone's grasping for the sun, trying to get that spotlight. But the only like Apple's just in the news right now because everyone's suing Travis Scott and then his music company, which is through Apple Music as well too, which is like $8 million for all that concert at Astro World, which people say the Simpsons predicted. So I was like, what? It went out again. Okay, I'll do some filler. I could pause it.
Yeah. Actually, I saw, sorry about that. Technical difficulties on my end. I don't know what the hell's wrong. Probably because I don't have an Apple computer. Apple's infected my computer with malware and shitting all over my microphone. But yeah, I did catch it this time. I saw say, "Oh, you're not recording," so sorry about that.
Okay. Um, but I think it started with KFC. I think it all went down fucking hill with KFC when they added Taco Bell onto the side of their fucking building. I was like,
You
you
think?
bastards let in the door for people to try shit they shouldn't have tried. We got Danny McBride in Halloween, you pieces of shit. That's what happened. That's what happened.
Uh, well, I'll say this: anytime you can expand the footprint of Taco Bell is fine with me. So,
I like
so
Taco
yeah,
Bell.
I don't care if there's a Taco Bell on the side of a Kenny Rogers Roasters. I'll take it.
If Arby's buys a Sonic, we're fucked. I'm telling you that. That's
Ooh,
the signs of the henchmen of the apocalypse.
yeah, that's just adding insult to gastronomic injury there, I
Well,
suppose.
like what? I used to just get spam calls. I used to
Mhm.
just get spam calls. Now I'm getting spam texts.
Yeah.
They're evolving. They're morphing. The society is changing because people are doing things they necessarily would have never thought to do. Not people, the corporations. They're doing
Oh yeah.
things that are like, well, there's not enough people in this market, so I better jump in. I'm like, there's enough people making electric cars. And let me tell you, not a lot of people are fucking buying them as much as you think.
Well,
Oh,
text messages are easy to do. Those text spams, they don't cost hardly anything. And the companies wouldn't do it. That's the thing. If you make the bar to entry so low financially
I have
that
10 right
anyone can
now I
jump
could
in.
read you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you do. And it's
It's
that you can
horrible.
blame that not on the spammer, and it's easy to blame the spammer. But really it's your phone company. They made a decision to allow those to come through, and they don't have to. They really don't have to.
Wait, so my phone company is the one letting those get through? They're not just random numbers?
Most of the time, well, the phone calls, here's the thing, is they're spoof numbers, but they're coming from places. It's not a line to line. Your phone company knows when you make a phone call, what happens. It shows up on the ledger. It knows exactly you made a phone call. When it ends up to another user, it knows that the phone's calling. Most of the phones that aren't calling aren't even real phone numbers, they're spoofed. So they're going through a computer, so to speak. And you can't tell me they can't spoof when say that a company signs up for numbers, okay? They sign up for numbers. They know they say, this is your block of phone numbers. Literally, the phone company, all they have to do is say, what's your business? Nope, we're not going to allow those fucking numbers. We're not even going to assign you fucking numbers. And then also with the SMS text, a lot of companies, you'll see most of the text you're getting, they're not even from phone numbers. It'll be from like a whole series of ones and zeros. It'll be like from 110073297887 or something like that. They're not even a phone number. And what those are is because your SMS company, I could send, if you're on AT&T, which I am, I could send you a text message by sending you an email to whatever your phone number is. So my phone number at ATT, I think it's att.net. If someone sends an email to that phone number, it'll show up as a text message on my phone, but it won't come through as a phone number. So blame your phone company for all that stuff.
Oh my God, it's like they're advertising on you already. They're letting all these things go through to where they're saying you can do this for 29.99, and they know my name. That's how you get me. All you got to do is say Robbie and I'm fucking hooked. I'm like, "What, you know my name? It's such a personal connection. You must be an old friend." They got me. God damn it.
Hi, friend.
They got me. This is what I get nervous about, is because it's like when I start, like, I'm very kind of in the past with technology. I don't need, I mean, I think I have an iPhone 6, 7 maybe.
Good,
I don't know.
good.
I don't need to upgrade because it's just people, they spend their whole entire like 2 paychecks, 3 paychecks just to get a new iPhone that's like
Yeah,
$800. I'm like, for what?
it's
It's
dumb.
bigger. Who the gives a fuck? I can't even fit it in my pants now.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, here's the great example, like we were talking about a minute ago, to bring it back to my buddy here, this TCL ship phone. He cost with this case, cost delivered under $200. It's an Android operating system. I think it's 6 gig or 3 gig. I can't remember which one, but it's faster than iPhones. It specs out faster than iPhones. It's got 64 gig of storage. You can download anything from the Android store, the Google store, whatever it's called. Fast as fuck, faster than iPhones, does everything I want, $200. And yet people are like, I'm going to go get the new iPhone for $999. Or now there's the new fold phones. Who the fuck wants a phone that folds over? It's just literally they just want to pull their dick out and wave it around. It's like, look at all the money I got. It's like, nobody cares about your fucking money. What does it do? Does it do any more thing more than my phone? Well, I can watch a bigger screen. Congratulations. What
I
the
know.
fuck does that do you?
I noticed the door starting to open. I've been using a rental car recently, so
Mhm.
it's just, you just have to have the keys on. You don't need to hit a button, or you don't need to go
Right.
into your car and put it in, and you just
Mhm.
tap the button and go like the new cars do. And I'm so
Mhm.
used to the old one, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't even need to take it out of my bag when I go work out. And then when I'm done, I just hop in the car and drive home. But then I get to my door and I'm like, fuck, I need my keys to unlock my door. And then a thought came into my head. Well, if I got an upgraded like door to where I just need the keys near the door and I can go in, I'm like, see, this is how people get fucking killed in the middle of the night. Like you start to notice that delicacy starts to open up because the ease of access becomes, oh my God, I never like, I still have the normal flick light switch, but some people go,
Yeah,
Alexa, lights off, and the lights fucking
that's
turn off. And I'm like, that's where the demon enters because now you're getting, it's not that you're getting lazy. It might be good ease of access if you're an older person that might need that type of thing, but use the shit that works, man.
yeah,
Like it's scary because I see that door lead in. Like I saw more memes about like the Wally scenario becoming true when they were doing the metaverse with Mark Zuckerberg. He had that fucking contraption on all those people's heads, and then it showed exactly what the Wally scene was. And it's goddamn similar. I was
yeah.
like, oh my God. Like, I'd rather go back. I watched a video, it was called a street druid, and the dude had rats laid on a mat, and he was tapping the rats, and then he would tap over on the side, and the rats would follow where he tapped, and he would the certain rats he would tap would do that. And I'm like, look, you can look at that as a guy who's probably obsessed on drugs, or you can look at that as a visionary that just trained a bunch of fucking street rats to do exactly what he says.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get the whole automatic light switch. I'll be out with a friend or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to set my temperature in my house. It's like, why? What does that fucking, well, I want it to be warm when I get home. It's like, who the fuck cares?
No,
It's too much.
this is
It's
a
just too much.
this is going to be in my film. It's me, cold as shit. It's 48 degrees outside. This morning it was like 40. It's going to be me getting into my old ass car, fucking turning the heat on and sitting there, all that shit. Cause it's
Right.
something people remember. You got to remember what that feels like. You have to go through struggle. I swear to God, struggle is the most, it creates visionaries.
Mhm.
It creates fucking people that think clearer. God damn it. It was Naruto, I think I was watching. I've been getting into anime again. Fucking A. Jesus. Let me tell you, there's a lot of scenes that could turn into a gay porn real fast. Like the master and the student sitting back to back eating a popsicle, then like to get the little pink lines above their cheeks, and
Yeah.
then the master gets up because he gets a message and leaves. I'm like, this could have easily went a completely different direction. Um, but there's like key moments that we talk about. You need struggle. I was like, God damn it, you don't want people to go through hard times because it's a horrible situation when you go through them, but you're so much stronger when you come out of that shit. Like I would hate to see a person like Bruce Wayne's family. Like fuck, I would hate that to happen to somebody. But God damn it, if he didn't become a good fighter, a fucking billionaire, a ladies' man, build a bunch of shit by himself, like it shows. I mean, I don't want people to have to go through those scenarios, but just like maybe somebody saying no to you once, is that hard enough to create a little bit of struggle in your life? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't even have a theory on that. I'm like, Bruce Wayne's fake. You give most people a lot of money and you get fucking Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos.
Why do you
So
hate Elon?
I don't hate
I
Elon.
love Elon.
I just think that
He's
there's
such
too
a
much.
troll.
You know what? I won't get into this whole hatred of social media, but it's trolling is just the lowest form of kind of masturbatory entertainment that one can have. I don't really understand the turning up the pot anymore just to get reactions from people. It's not my thing.
I just think he trolls differently because I think people like there was an article about him and Joe Rogan that talked about like they're cowards for leaving California. They should have helped rebuild California. And I'm like, a lot
Mm,
of people are expecting them to do things that they don't have to fucking do. Like people just expect Elon to donate his money like Bill Gates and do all these things. And like, why would he? Like, there's
yeah,
no incentive for him to. It's his fucking like people just we've as a society we put too much faith in like actors and people to be our heroes when it used to be our parents or it used to be superheroes on TV. Now we've established those in our actors. Like we need Sandra Bullock or we need Jennifer Aniston or we need Matthew McConaughey to talk about taking a vaccine. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking hear that from you. I'm just saying, but people need something to believe in. And I think the easiest thing to believe in will be yourself. But a lot of people just want to model their success off of some billionaire. And I don't think that's
yeah,
like, I'm surprised people accept Gary Vee for who he is. I would fucking think society should reject him on the aspect of he's a cocky shit. I mean, he might be a nice guy, but everything I've seen with him is like, well, it's because you're fucking lazy. It's like, dude, the hustle mentality works to a point when if you're really lazy, but people that are actually doing things out there in this world that just don't have a good roll of the dice. I mean, a
right.
lot of the society about how people succeed is fucking luck, in my opinion.
you're not wrong. And I've met people that have worked. I've I have a small business I've been running for 20 some years. I've been doing that on the side of working full time at times. So yeah, I work 80
Creating the
hours a
best
week.
goddamn horse game I've ever seen.
That's right. No, it's been a thing. So I put in a lot of work. I get some money out of it. I don't get as much probably as the work I've put in, but that's all right. It's a passion and I had fun with it. I know a lot of people that worked harder than me, just as hard as me, that didn't make any money. I know a lot of people that didn't work very hard and fucking fell ass into something. There are people, I try to use the term, uh, they got lucky, but a lot of those people made their own luck. They put themselves in the right situation at the right time. Technically, you could even argue people that win the lottery, they put themselves in a situation to win the lottery. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. Yes, it's a stupid analogy because it's complete luck. But you know what? If you don't buy a lottery ticket, you're never going to win the fucking lottery. So, in a way, people make their own luck, and some people do get lucky and some people don't. I think the biggest problem I have, and it's not a problem with Elon Musk, and it's not a problem with rich people in general. And I know last podcast I probably ranted too much about the ills of things that I probably don't know enough about to really ramble about. But I can say this, and you were just talking about people getting a bad roll of the dice. That's the one thing that really troubles me. Is someone that maybe they have a great job, maybe they're making great money, and suddenly there's an illness and they can't work anymore, and now they don't have the insurance anymore and they have to pay medical bills or it's not covered. And next thing you know, you had somebody that worked hard their entire life, and suddenly because of a bad medical event that they may or may not have any control over, and we'll just use in the case where they don't, in this case maybe it's their child that was born with a deficiency or an ailment, and of course, you're going to give all your money to that. And you went from being completely successful and setting up a nice retirement to literally living hand to mouth. And it's the unfortunate way that we could talk about the way that the United States takes care of uh, their medical needs and things like that. I'll
See,
try not to get too deep
I
into
don't know
that.
if I would agree with you on that one on the aspect of I used to think that I would be like, yeah, the government should fucking give you free healthcare, should this. But then my buddy put in a perspective, he goes, yeah, but if they give you free healthcare and you have to sue them, um, they gave you free healthcare in the first place. There's no discourse for that. And I experienced that firsthand with John Hopkins, where I did win my court case. I had
Mhm,
no fucking help for a year and a half, actually, still going on 3 years now,
mhm.
dealing with this issue that I have. But I finally got my medical insurance, but it was almost a year and a half process to get it. It was free. So there was no fucking, you're at the top of the charts because they were helping me out in the first place. I was just asking for this type of thing that I did qualify for. And I was like, I just think there needs to be better verification in
Oh,
certain systems. I don't think the government should have as much power as they do, but I don't think we should be without. I just
but
think there needs to be some type of, I guess, discourse with people where we can get to a point where we're not stabbing each other over the dumbest shit. Like it's
well,
I
I'm
don't
not talking about stabbing. I'm talking about childhood cancer and things. What do you do? I mean, really, what do you do if your insurance isn't going to cover it? If
well,
you run into an event where you did work and you can't work suddenly because your company, you have to work so many hours a week and then suddenly you can't, and now you were financially crippled because of it. And see a homeless guy and you may think to yourself, well, he's just a lazy piece of shit. And the truth is, he may have been the hardest working guy, but he ran into a problem. And you can't always go back and get the job you had before. Some of those jobs don't exist, and sometimes you get so much into debt. Debt is crippling, and that's the thing. As the
school
United
debt.
States, huh?
School
School
debt.
debt, school debt. Not only school debt's the prime example, because a lot of people that get degrees will never get their money back, and we could make an argument about, well, they should have picked a better degree, but let's not even on that. Is payday lenders exist for a reason. It's a shitty way to make a dime for a person to own a payday lender, but in actuality they wouldn't exist if people didn't need that assistance. And they charge crazy amounts of money. And similar to credit cards, they'll give you a great rate as long as you pay it off, and you'll even get cash back as long as you pay it off every month. But if you get behind, you're going to get butt fucked. And it's just really this kind of cascading effect of unfortunate things happen. And when one unfortunate thing happens to a person financially because of high interest rates, things of that nature, they can't dig themselves out of it oftentimes. And then they'll go into bankruptcy. Well, once you go into bankruptcy, you can't even necessarily get a good job. Now, you can't get a job. You can't So literally you're living, hopefully, if you're lucky, and at least nowadays, fast food's paying better than it's ever paid. My son works for $15 an hour and he's 16 years old. He's actually saved quite a bit of money now for a 16-year-old. He's doing good shit. But it's hard to have, if you have a family, you can't recover from that. Should the government help you in that situation? This comes down to a question of how much money, but this goes back to Elon Musk, and should he help people? How much money is too much? You live in the United States, you've made a decision to plant your flag here. You moved to Texas from California for no other reason, and Rogan did it. And you see a lot of people moving into Tennessee and a lot of people moving into Texas. The primary reason is because they have no state income tax. California has one of the highest state income taxes. Could be mistaken on that. If I am, people can fucking correct me. I do know Tennessee has no state income tax. I'm about 99.7% sure Texas has no state income tax. So now you're just talking, huh?
It's the Lone Star State. It doesn't have to have income tax.
Okay. But Florida's the same way. So you're seeing a lot of people that want to dodge taxes. Do I blame them? No, I do not blame them, because that's the way things have been set up. Should things be set up that way? That's a different question. I can tell you firsthand that the roads in Tennessee suck fucking ass. Okay. Yeah. You see where our tax dollars go? They don't, because we don't have a state income tax, and our roads look like shit.
I'll say we have taxes in Maryland and our roads look like you like huge. That's why my windshield's fucking cracked. Like it used to be a small little one. Now it's gone completely across the board because the roads are that much shit. But I just, I don't, we, the tax thing, I guess it's different perspective because like over here we have the state tax and everything, but it doesn't fucking go to the things you would think that they say that they fix.
Yeah.
Like that infrastructure bill, there was less than 4% of that was supposed to go to fixing roadways, but on the top of the bill it says roads. And I'm like, there needs to be a better assortment of like issues that need to be core fix. I think it should start with our education systems. I mean,
you couldn't be more right there. Our education systems are shit. In Tennessee, they bitch all the time about we can't get teachers, we can't get bus drivers. And then at the same time, they're like, why can't we get a bus driver? I'm like, you can't get a bus driver because you're paying them $18 an hour, but you're only paying them when they drive. So they're sitting out there waiting. They have to go get a bus. They have to drive it there. They have to sit and wait. Now they're getting paid to drive an hour or two when they spent 5 or 6 hours of their time working part-time. They don't get any benefits. They don't get any insurance. It's a fucking shit job. If you want to have bus drivers, it's supply and demand. Pay a salary that will drive people to go drive those buses and say, hey, this is worth my time and effort. And they don't want to do it. Similar with a lot of teachers. They don't want to pay teachers, and they want to bitch about the school not having teachers. It's supply and demand. And now that's why you see a lot of people, day laborers and things, they can demand more money than they used to. We can try to get somebody to our house to do things that literally people would fall all over themselves to do. If I need a repair done, used to, I could throw a rock and hit 27 people to do it. Now you have to wait weeks or months, or they'll call back and say, you know what, I got a better gig. I'm making more money over here. People are actually taking into account supply and demand and their worth. And that's why you're seeing fast food places have to pay so much for employees. People are walking away from it. They're like, it's not worth my time and effort to go work that job for $8.75 an hour.
And then the other,
because I can barely get there and back home.
Yeah, and then the other people complain about there's no effort getting put into work anymore. I think you should to be honest, I don't think it should be $18 an hour like it is over here to or minimum wage. I don't think it should be 15. I think it should be enough to survive, but I don't think the cost of living should be so goddamn high. Yeah. Also, at the same time, I think you should give everyone the valuable opportunities to go after something that they want to go after. Now, here's what I started to notice is that during this pandemic, the huge, giant push for was be your own entrepreneur. You're going to be your own make starter. You can do whatever you want. Start your own business at home. Make fucking sourdough bread and sell it online. I don't care. The world is open to be an entrepreneur. It's always been like that. It's always said they were open for entrepreneurs. Then people did it, then failed. And then they went back like, maybe it wasn't cut out for me. No, it's because the corporations own the market. The disguise is that you can succeed in it. The real way it works is not, it's not how it works. I know plenty of people are like, it's just, I can't, there's no, it's fuck, it would dig me in the fucking hole. He goes, yeah, because they make it so goddamn hard for you to be successful in it. The disguise, just like this nation is disguised as a mental health nation. We're pro mental health. They don't give a fuck about you. That's the thing, as I started to notice, and I've been hitting this level where I'm like, I think it just needs to be more open opportunities for people, which is the aspect of like, not that, oh, you can go get a job right down the street, or oh, there's jobs everywhere. Job that you want. I don't think we should base so many things. Like Ben Shapiro, I think, said it best in a podcast. I was listening to him. He said he doesn't look at a college resume when he hires people for his show. He just looks at people that are passionate about the actual pathway that they're going to be hired for. And I've said that for the longest time as well too. If you hire someone who's passionate about the thing, despite what their degree is compared to someone who has the highest degree for it, they might be more certified, but that person's going to do more background training in it when he goes home, when he gets off work. He's going to spend his free time looking into those types of things. You, for instance, might not work for Activision or Blizzard or any of these giant corporations that make a gaming company, but you love the game that you create. You like working on it. You keep doing it. That's someone I want to fucking hire, someone that I know cares about what he's fucking doing, rather than someone that goes, I got the degree for it. Yeah, you're going to hire me. I'm best fit.
Well, the dirty secret about that too, about companies, and they won't tell you this, even though it exists, is they're hiring people now without college degrees, and they're smart about it because it's the exact same thing. Is that you can find somebody just as qualified without a college degree as you can with one. Similar to, so you can find somebody with a bachelor's degree that's just as qualified or more qualified than someone that has a master's degree. But when they come in and they ask for a salary, it sure helps the company when you don't have that fucking high school degree, because now you're paying them 20% less and you cap their ceiling. And now you go, oh, okay, well, this is as far as I'm ever going to get you. You may not tell that to them. And they may be, there's always the one. You always hear about the success story. Like you said, though, it's a roll of the dice sometimes. Sometimes you fall ass into something perfect, and sometimes you work your ass off and don't fall into something great at all. And companies do that. Companies love, they love to have the guy with a bachelor's degree that doesn't fit the mold, because they're like, oh, this guy works his ass off and he does all these things, but we don't have to worry about ever taking him up to manager. He's a fucking slot puller. You know, he's the guy that gets the work done. While we've got the manager with the master's degree or the CPA, that's a degree that they fucking love at particularly hospitals. A hospital company I work for that will remain nameless, is that they used to love hiring their CPAs. It's like, do you know what a CPA does? They're certified public accountant. They learned how to fucking move numbers from one side of a ledger to another. Some of them are dumb as fuck, the fucking box of Roxas. Box of Fox, whatever. They're fucking stupid, okay?
Boxy
But
boxes.
Fox, hey, that boxing, nothing wrong with that. But they're not very intelligent people, but they put themselves in a situation. They love to tell you how to fucking work an Excel spreadsheet, and they want to see it in Excel because they don't have any fucking technical skill. They want to be able to hit their button and fucking see the numbers. And really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And but they're the ones getting paid the money while the people underneath are doing the shit. And this is what I love about, if there's a good that came out of the quote unquote pandemic, it's the fact that tech people started working more from home. They're not going back in the office, buddy. They're fucking the company. They're not fucking the company, but they fucking took it by hand. I can tell you firsthand of, and I know a lot of tech people, nobody's going back in the office. And the ones they tried to get to go back in the office, they left their current fucking position and went somewhere else because they realized they had the fucking power. That scares the shit. And this is why you see companies to this day, the first thing they push, it's old white guys being old white guys. First thing they push is they want you back in the office. They want to start it with a few days a week. Why? Because they realized middle managers don't necessarily do a whole lot sometimes. They manage people, but when you get guys, like you said, a guy that has a passion, a guy that's going to do his job anyway, he's going to learn on the outside. He doesn't need a manager 98% of the time. He needs to know where HR is in case he needs to check something out. He might need a little direction here or there, but he doesn't need a manager managing him. Those hour meetings that you'd have every week or whatever with your manager, how are things going? It's just a bunch of shit. So, but tech guys, particularly guys who do IT work, they're not going back. They said, fuck it. They're going to be the last ones to go back to the office. But I guarantee you, you'll see it. Give it another couple years as this pandemic turns into an endemic. And no matter how it resolves itself, if assuming that a strain doesn't come along and just wipe out 20% of the population, you're going to see the companies driving people back. Why? Because the CEOs love their middle management. They love to tell middle managers what to do. Middle managers love to tell their fucking their underlings what to do. It's
I
a
would
thing.
I would much rather have, well, it's like the power pyramid, which is just people below other people that are below other people, and there's always one person
Mhm.
that reigns supreme. It's kind of like a wealth oligarchy, which is just
Yeah.
people that are benefiting off of whatever they possibly can, no matter who it affects. I just it's forgot my train of thought. Starting off with something, I was going down something.
Down
I
the
just
hole.
I think people have a lot more power than they realize, but there's also like these false narratives that get spread out there as well too, which is people that try and protest saying if we all stop working, then they'll have to pay us more, and then all of them stop working, then they just hire new fucking people, and now you've just cut all these people out of their lives. Very few times a protest actually goes successful. One that no one talks about because it didn't get highlighted more than a day in the news that actually went on for weeks was the Kellogg strike. Successful as shit. The lady came on, the CEO, whoever it was, lied her fucking ass off, said, our employees get paid
Right.
$126,000 per year and they get this amount of vacation time. And everyone's like, those
Yeah.
fucking numbers don't add up.
Well,
You
yeah.
know,
Notice she said the average salary, which is
yeah.
a little bit different than the median salary.
So it's very, very tricky. I just think it's always kind of been like this. But I think the weirdest time is that social media, and the good part about it, besides just how toxic just common conversations can be, a lot of aspects of things when it comes to competitiveness, which is just where it's a competitive nature society's been built upon. That's where it stems from, is that it used to be like, fun. Like, hey, we're gonna see this podcast and get more listens by the end of the month. And then later becomes fuck you, and then fuck you. And that's what it became to. And that you
Yeah.
see that with like Scrubs, the show. They were showing the surgery, who can do the fastest surgery times and all this type of stuff. And it's like escalating over people's fucking nobody would take a case on certain aspects. Like that person has cancer. That's a death wish. I'm not gonna dig my hands into that record, then I'll have a blemish on my record. It's fucking weird like that. But you start to notice really the true aspects about people isn't necessarily the competitiveness, but there's a caring need for it there, but it only when it affects you. And I think that's what the issue is that you got to extend that grasp a little bit farther. I'm not trying to be like this person's like, everyone needs to sit together and, Gandhi, all this. That's not going to fucking happen. But there's a sense of when you got to see where it's going to end up leading to. When they start doing this here, it's going to lead down to there. Then it's going to lead farther and farther and farther. The goalpost does not stop moving. It's the biggest thing that scared me with like the metaverse shit, mostly with the whistleblower that was going against Mark Zuckerberg. Government sanctioned, by the way. That's a government fucking employee. She was verified 2 days after creating her account with over 800,000 followers when I have never seen that fucking woman before. So, like, it's kind of like Gabby Petito. Like, everyone has these conspiracies that it was all like a thing. I was like, yeah, I have never heard of. She was an influencer for fucking what? Shoes or something where I never saw her fucking face? Like, you get to this point where you start realizing that there's power grasp and power control things. And that's kind of what happens is like they always blame Biden, blame everything on Biden. You can't blame the fucking president. This has been an issue digging up from the fucking root of this fucking start of this shit. It's because it's always been more profitable to have power. And the more power you have, the more profit you get. More profit, more money. It keeps fucking going and going and going. My idea is if you're famous and you have like a high level of fame, like a Robert Downey Jr., whoever, you should have money to be able to survive, but you should not have more than your means. Because I think that's two realms of power that can't be handled properly. That's you either have money, no fame. Fame, no money. I don't know how this works, but there's an era of like these two things are one of the hardest to control. You see that with Elvis. Elvis, in my heart, is probably the gateway for fame. For every person to watch what he did and do the fucking opposite. That man went through every single fucking pothole, trip hole, drugs, alcohol that people are still doing today. He did it before everybody. He watched his manager that wouldn't let him go overseas because of the fucking a fear that he was going to leave and never want to come back. The man died on a goddamn toilet. There's shit that happens today that people are doing that are the same steps. You see with child stars, what their fucking life had become. I think the only person who's really, I guess, effectively made it out of it, I would say Miley Cyrus, and that's an if, maybe. She has her moments, but Macaulay Culkin got addicted to heroin. Now he's clean and now he's doing filming again. You have your bad rabbit holes that go down with this fame aspect, and it's because nobody understands this roadmap. And I think the best roadmap or someone that you can really kind of look at is Elvis. You can look at the way he went through things. You can look at all the stars that have done it before you, but nobody cares about them once they start getting their own fame. Then they have to be the influence. They have to be the visionary. And it's you fall in the same fucking rabbit holes. It's so hard because you get like a weird tunnel vision with it. And I think I don't know. There's a way to understand it better or make it effective or make it so much to where I guess people don't lose their fucking minds, but it's just the idea of power. It's how we got into the situations that we're in. People start getting a little bit of fame. I've seen it with podcast guests I've had on. I'll message them to do the podcast again. Sorry, man. I'm doing bigger things now. It's like, what do you mean bigger fucking thing? I thought we were like friends, I guess, conversation buddies. They were like, nah,
Yeah.
man, I'm interviewing real celebrities. I'm interviewing Chuck Liddell. I'm interviewing this. I'm like, well, who gives a fuck? What are you doing it just for the views? And that's what you see. And that's what a lot of the podcasting realm is about, getting views, which is a prime fun thing to do. But it's all about numbers. It's all about who am I better at? Podmatch, Podbean, all these fucking people that give you charts every new weekly newsletter, all because you retweet their shit. They'll just put your name up at the top just so who can be number one. It's not
Yeah.
healthy competition. It's never
Yeah.
been healthy competition in that aspect, because they can do it's all basis on comparisons. What has this person got that makes them better than me? Me, I don't have fucking time to deal with it all. I'm doing this for my own love and gain. I think that's what people need to start appreciating more. And I think the reason why I respect like a Joe Rogan so much is not because of the things that he says, it's because after talking with so many people, I fucking get it. I get the different perspectives. I get the understanding of like why I've watched him change from 100 to where he's at now, why I've watched myself change from 100 to where I'm at now. I don't have any stern beliefs that I'm not willing to hear somebody out. And I think it's like that opening the third eye or just opening up your mind. Everyone has that ability to, but a lot of people don't break out of their fucking social groups.
Well, most people don't have that ability. That's where we're going to disagree. I've been in conversations on podcasts with people before, and it's a media thing, like you said. It stems from power. It's not Biden's fault. It's not Trump's fault before him. It's not Obama's fault before him, and it's not Bush's fault. It goes back literally before our country was founded. It's power and its sway of trying to get people to do almost cannibalize people against each other to kind of go above the fray, and that's what it is. And you were just talking about podcasters fighting each other and trying to get on charts. It doesn't fucking matter. Just stupid. But some people don't have an ability to see. Literally, they think they do, and I think that's the unfortunate thing is you'll be in a conversation with somebody one day and then you'll talk to them a different time, and because their perspective changed because they had money. They were always that person. They just wanted to sound like a good person. But then once they get some money or some fame, they're like, oh fuck, you don't matter because you're beneath me. But when they were in that position, they always felt that way. They wanted to get to that point. They didn't change. And they were always kind of had that rotten core. They just did a better job of hiding it. And but yeah, some people won't change their opinion one way or the other, regardless of the amount of information and amount of fact you present with them. And the term alternative facts was something that was literally 20 years ago would be laughed at, and yet it's being thrown around, and as a real term, as something that people embrace. And I think we may have talked about this before, and I won't go down.
It
I
was
won't go
about
down
Pee-wee,
that rabbit hole.
because Pee-wee
Yeah,
wouldn't be arrested if he was caught today, but back
no, he
then it
wouldn't.
was.
No, alternate facts, but yeah, I don't know. People are going to alternate facts are a real thing now. There are websites devoted to it, and when you'll get on social media and you'll see some of the shit people share. I don't have the list, but I guess it's been about 10 years ago, maybe not quite that long, but I think it's 2014. I posted on my social media because it was when misinformation, maybe in 2012, but when misinformation really started to take hold, and people weren't paying attention yet. People just nowadays, at least I think people are savvy. They just don't care anymore. But yeah, if you see a link to a website, usually if it has the word liberal, conservative, freedom, or anything like that in it, that's usually a red flag that something's wrong with the site. If it doesn't end in a .com, probably something wrong. You might get by with some .orgs. If you get on there and you start
Fuck,
seeing
my site's a .org.
you can get by with the .org. You can't get by with the .net. And especially if you got like a .ru or something, fucking just give .info, all shit. Fuck all that shit. But then you go a little further down. And if you go to a website of anything, if you're getting your information from a site where you start seeing ads that go something like, and then she pulled back the curtain and this happened, or you can't believe the 7 things that will give you a happier life. If you start seeing advertisements that are clickbait right on the same site that you're getting your news and information from, you need to start questioning your sources. That's the big trick. If you're going to a site whose idea is to simply, if you agree with something too much, it's probably wrong to begin with. That's the truth. If you're agreeing with news too much, it's probably wrong. And to this day, I still open up when I go searching. I'm opening up Reuters. I'm opening up Bloomberg, even though it's very financial related. They don't give a shit if you're conservative or liberal because all they care about is fucking money. I go ahead and get on CNN and Fox and
I
I'll
go to the
watch those
Hill.
two battle it out.
I go to
Yeah,
the
the
Hill.
Hill. But what you try to do is you try to get places you know are going to lean too far one way and know we're going to lean too far another way. And then you try to get the sources in the middle and you try to have to see where they all get. But if you even read one, if you read one source, even if you believe that source, it's easy. Like Newsweek went from being a relatively efficient and effective source of news for years. Well, they got bought and now they're, and I'm sure somebody will get on to me about this, but we'll just say they've turned super conservative. And it's not just a conservative thing, but when you get an ownership change and the idea can sway quickly and it can sway right under your feet. You can get washed away in it without even know, for to a liberal perspective or a conservative perspective, too far one direction. And like you said, I think the most important thing is to listen. I don't know everything. I think that's the thing that cracks me up on social media. People will be like, they want to talk about what's happening in Israel or something. It's like, you didn't fucking give a shit about Israel 2 weeks ago. And now you're a scholar,
That shit's
you
been going
know?
on for like 15 something years.
Yeah. People are giving me vaccine information. These are the same people that in high school joked about never needing algebra or joked in my neighborhood about never needing algebra. And now they're fucking trying to read papers by professionals, by PhDs, and by doctors, either confirming or
That
denying
term peer review doesn't mean jack shit. I'm just throwing that out there.
it depends on the peers.
I've
It
seen so many
depends on the
people
peer.
put that fucking it's peer reviewed. I'm like, check who the fuck wrote it. I guarantee you I could search his ass up. He's probably got a Florida fucking reference.
But it does depend on the peer. And just because somebody's a doctor, you shouldn't trust them. Just because somebody's a PhD, they're fucking stupid PhDs too. PhDs that have agendas and don't have a goddamn like a sense. However, when you start, when you start believing the majority of things, when you get different frames of reference and you keep going back and you keep hearing the same thing, there's usually a grain of truth as long as it has as long as you're getting your sources from different places, as long as you don't drink from the same well repeatedly. And I think that's where you're lucky. I don't, at least from what I've seen, is you don't bring on people that fall in one perspective or another. You bring on people with differing opinions, and that's okay. I think the thing is I'm more conservative than you probably think I am, and I agree. I think there should be. I'm not against taxes, and I think in places there should be more taxes. But to come back to what you were saying, is that if there is not a good way to audit where that tax money's going, and I think that's where super conservatives hate taxes so much. I don't even think they hate the tax as much as they hate the fact they feel like they're out of control of their money and they don't trust the people that are getting the tax money to spend it wisely on this nation or on their community. And there's a happy medium somewhere in between. I think that's the thing, is there really is a happy medium that I think 90% of people could agree on if you put them in a room and stripped out all the bullshit. And like you said, stripped away power and middle management and things, and really got down to the nuts and bolts of what do we need as a society? Who do we need to help as a society? Can't we, even if you're super liberal, super conservative, there's still an area in between that we can agree on, that we can do good as a nation instead of just setting and fucking throwing stones at each other and bitching about each other's ideas.
I probably would side with libertarian, but I have a problem with libertarians. I have a problem with all sides. I just have
Sure you do. I do too.
I just have one little small issue that it's like everyone's so confined to their position they can't take the time to listen. Some, not all. I'm just saying some.
No.
Mostly the vocal ones. Like I had a guy on here tell me that the lab wasn't real. Like I'm a conspiracy theorist for even suggesting that. I was like, you notice how that fucking narrative changed when Trump got out of office? You notice how they started researching into that? And then the same site that I see him retweeting articles for, he won't retweet the one about the NIH did prove that they did fund it, but they changed the definition of gain of function research. And I was like, what about that shit? And ignore it, block me, get it. Like, I just look at it like that's what I don't understand is like, you don't want to be wrong. You'll double down. That's what our news does. I think for the longest time, the world thought like they would come to the government like, where's the button? It's like, what button? The button that clears everything. It makes everything better. Press the button. And then there was really no button, but everyone kind of like the media was teaming up with the government, whatever you want to call it, kind of distorting this perception that there is a button. Then everyone saw through the media, and the media kind of doubled down on a lot of aspects. I've never seen more clarity, at least in these glimpses and moments, about media just kind of having biases and all these types of things. We've talked about it. There's been stereotypes about it, but it's like the Catholic Church. There were stereotypes about that motherfucking thing for a long time. And then people are like, wait, it's actually happening? Yeah. Yeah, it was. Thank you for noticing fucking 100 something years later. But the media, for instance, everyone's starting to notice like, oh, they are having a really weird view. I'll turn on CNN and Fox at my work when I'm on the elliptical or something. I see two TVs right above my head, both talking about Kyle Rittenhouse in different fucking ways, different
Mhm.
sides of things, different spinning. But every time they change a subject, they both change a fucking subject. I've never seen more divisiveness over the fucking, just even, I think we changed the idea of professionalism with the correct answer. Like I still have, I've talked to a lot of academics, and I can tell you that one academic will talk shit on this academic will talk shit on that academic. Everyone's got different viewpoints and different sides on types of things. But I guarantee you, I look up on academia.com or something, I type in flat earth. There's a person telling you all about how the flat earth exists. And then there's a person right below and it's telling you God would never create a flat earth. It's all about religion. And I'm like, I start to go like, I think you need to question anything that's like peer review, anything on that concept of stuff. But there's a lot of people that get the wrong information and they do run with it. That is with vaccine information. That is with a lot of other things as well there too. But you want to know what's weird is that if I told you I just beat cancer, you go, oh my God, that's awesome. How'd you do it? I ate a banana a day. You're like, well, fucking good to you, man. And then there was a study that showed that, yes, it did cure my cancer. You would be happy. You didn't give a fuck what I took. Why is that not the same thing with COVID? Why does everyone turn it into a goddamn religion where it's like, you took that, you're a piece of shit, you're a fucking this, you're a mine? It's like, what the hell does that even do? Beat it, get the fuck over it. Like, that's the thing. Is like, I've had a buddy who, a friend of mine, he was on here, Ben. He had COVID, and then on his last day of COVID, he had a heart attack. He had to go get
Shit.
surgery. He's luckily okay,
Mhm.
perfectly fine now, but he
Yeah.
works out every day, supplement guy, all these types of things. He took care of his body and stuff like that. But people like, he was vaccinated too. So it was like, you start getting to this point where it's not about sides on this aspect. You should just be happy if someone gets through something like that. Like, that's
No,
where we need to go back to. That used to happen all the time. People, AIDS, anything. You were caring for other people. It wasn't about like, we need to put these people in a fucking thing and burn them. There was none of that. But that's what it became with
there
this. And I
kind of was a lot of that.
with well, people were afraid to get near people with AIDS. I know Magic
Yeah, it was
Johnson.
a whole thing. There were news talking heads, and I won't dox anybody. You can look it up, but they would literally start reading out people that died of AIDS on the radio show, pretty much being,
Jesus
haha,
Christ.
look, yeah, it's a thing. Go look it up. So yeah, I'm old enough to remember a lot of that.
Who
You're
led the
probably not.
charge? Fauci did. Check that.
But
I saw a young picture of him. I was like, God damn, he's
I'll
everywhere.
be
Elf on the shelf.
but no, it's a thing. And so people haven't changed. I think that's the thing. I think that it seems like people have changed. I think that social media empowers people to think and believe, well, to spew things, because at least if someone was spewing things, the only people you'd hear spew is if somebody had a radio show back in the 80s or 90s. Once the internet came along, people started becoming, hey, look, I've got Facebook. And then Facebook's going to engineer, first off, they're going to engineer to what you like and agree with. And then secondly, you're going to get your friends. And then I think that's the unfortunate thing, is that my friends, people that I've known and trusted and went to college with, and they share some of the dumbest shit. And they've just, it's really, like you said, it's become a competition. It's become a side. I have to be on this side, or I have to be on this side. I don't fuck with Facebook anymore. I find Facebook to be god awful. Truthfully, almost all social media is. I like Twitter because you can get news almost in real time, but I don't have a personal Twitter account. And I don't post a whole bunch of fucking political opinion on Twitter, but it is good. We were talking about getting news. It's good to go to Twitter. And if nothing else, it's good to know that there are people out there, whether you agree or disagree with them, there are people out there that honestly 100% believe this shit they're saying. And it's good to understand that. And it's good to try to understand where they're coming from. And, as far as people are going to make the decision on their vaccination, I've got my booster recently. I know some people that refuse to get it. You're talking about somebody that was vaccinated and died. Well, there's plenty of people that weren't vaccinated and they died, but it turns into one of those, there people love to shit on the, or I think they didn't die, but had a heart
Yeah,
attack, I
Ben
think.
didn't die.
But yes, sorry. But yeah, there are people that, like you said, they want to shit. They will go jump through every fucking hoop possible. See, this guy got a vaccination and 3 days later he died. And then they're going to be, it's like, okay, so you're pretty much, you take whatever you believe is working for you, and somebody dies from that. And then the vaccination side that's laughing at you for taking whatever it is.
I
I
just
know the
don't
big,
think you should be forced to take something you might not feel comfortable with. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
That's
I
my
would
whole
say
thing.
this is where I won't say I disagree with you and I won't say I agree with you. I think COVID's different than a lot of diseases. What makes COVID so dangerous isn't the fact that in and of itself it's dangerous. Don't get me wrong. I do know hundreds of thousands of people have died, but could you imagine if it were just a little more effective at killing people? And there are plenty of diseases that are and have been. Now, if we get to a point that this were to morph and say 10% of people that catch COVID die of COVID, I might start thinking that you had to vaccinate everybody, because then it becomes a legit serious COVID. What made COVID so dangerous is how fast and how easy it was to transmit.
But
But a
what
lot of people recovered just fine.
what about the concept of if you have it and you can't be affected by it, then what about the people that don't have it? If they die, that's not your problem.
And it kind of is my problem, because my family could catch it, even if you're vaccinated. Like we were talking about, again, this goes to the whole,
But
there are some
you
people,
spread it the same though too.
there are literally some people that can't take vaccinations due to health reasons.
Yeah, I have family members that are like that
Yeah.
too. But I just
And we,
I think like for me, for instance, everyone in my family has gotten COVID, and I've been around them. I've been around people at
yeah.
work that have gotten COVID. I've never got COVID. I'm
Mhm.
not vaccinated.
Right. And you could have actually gotten COVID and not known it. It could have been asymptomatic. And
I'm
some
the
people
cure.
get COVID. Yeah, some people get
I'm the
COVID
cure.
and it doesn't bother them at all. And some of them recover
It's
perfectly fine.
I am legend. Everybody suck on my wrist.
But I think that's the thing, is I'm not as, especially now, given as, again, we can discuss the effectiveness of vaccines and things. I prefer not to.
I don't want to, but I
Yeah,
also
no, I
I
don't
don't
either.
think
But
it's microchip shit either. I don't think that
no,
either. I just
no, I'll say this. I think they work. Otherwise, I wouldn't have them. You think you may or may not think they work. Regardless, somewhere in between, I am at a point now, particularly now that I'm
tell me it
vaccinated.
came from that fucking lab. I'll let you go right into the fucking tricep with it.
but but I am at a point now, particularly as I've done everything to protect myself and my family that I can think of. I believe the vaccines to be effective. And I'm at a point now, particularly if someone doesn't want to take the vaccine, that's pretty much, especially this vaccine, and given the non effective nature of the COVID disease. Again, it's effective in transmitting, but not effective necessarily at killing people. It's not, its danger is in the fact that it kills some people, but if almost everybody's going to get it, because it is such an effective transmitting disease, even though it's not effective at killing people. I think that if we turn that up though, and we get a point, let's say that COVID becomes where it kills 10% of people, say that that transforms into something. Now, by the time it gets to there, hopefully it never does. But if it ever got to that point, our current vaccines probably wouldn't be that effective anyway.
Yeah.
But if things get to a point that if this is an, imagine if it's an Ebola situation, but that spreads like COVID.
People have
And
only ever cared about themselves. Why is it so different now?
I think that's the thing. People shouldn't only care about themselves. People should care about their,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
our,
why is this an exception? Is because a lot of people
again,
it was sales pitched wrong, man. The beginning of this thing was sales pitched
yeah.
100. It made it seem like every third person was going to fucking die.
Well, I can say this about the sales pitch too. Okay. And this is where age probably matters a little bit, is that I'm 50, and I can say living through 50, this is the first time anything's been like this, in as far as a disease, as well
Fauci
as the
did it with
social
the
media.
AIDS epidemic as well too.
The AIDS epidemic
He
did
talked
not.
about everybody was going. There's an interview with Kerry Mullis, the guy who invented the PCR test. It's 2.5 hours long. In 1993, he talks about this, and he says some strong words about Fauci. He doesn't know anything about science, is what he calls. I'm not saying Fauci doesn't, because obviously he has
Yeah.
degrees, but I'm saying on a concept of, I've seen the old interviews with him talking on late night shows and talking about AIDS, where he's like, you need to do
Yeah.
all this type of stuff to protect, because this might infect everyone. It might infect your
Yeah.
kids. He scared the shit, just like he did during the pandemic.
Well, the difference was we saw a lot of people dying immediately that literally were, how did you, I was in a room with that person. When people were dying of AIDS, it was pretty easy to say, yeah, I had unprotected sex with that person. Yes, and now I died, and this person died, and it was easy to track. So I'm not worried about walking into Kroger and somebody falling with their dick and landing in my ass. Just not what I'm concerned about.
Well,
Okay,
at the start, they didn't know that it was just
they didn't. They
sexually
didn't.
transmitted disease.
But quickly they figured it out. And they you can only scare somebody so much. You can yell the sky's falling. You can say the sky's falling, but if you don't see the sky falling and the only people that are get you hang out, you're not getting AIDS. So you may be protected. You may protect yourself, but it still was a very small subset. COVID was spreading quickly. And the reason COVID was dangerous, and this is why COVID was so dangerous early on. First off, they didn't know how to treat it. They've gotten better at treating the symptoms. They had no idea. Secondly, and this is why it was so dangerous, or why it seemed so dangerous at first, was because it was happening pretty much at the coast, because that's where it came in. You look at it, particularly New York, because that's one of the biggest airports in the United States. People were coming in and it was spreading like wildfire in New York. Their hospital system was overloaded and they didn't know how to treat it anyway. And that's when you saw the COVID rates of death go up in the United States, even when vaccines and things of that nature were effective. Again, we could argue that point, but I don't want to. But at the same time, it was because hospitals were overloaded and people couldn't get care. And then now people are dying because wards were full. And then people that may have a different ailment, they can't even get an emergency room.
Yeah, the
So
amount of
it
people
becomes,
dying on respirators too before they knew
yeah,
that was a bad idea to put them on there. And
right.
also
But
the N95 thing where they were saying don't get N95 masks because they wanted to save it for
yeah,
more of the healthcare work.
yeah. And that I believe 100% they did. And again, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but when I heard that and they're like, yeah, healthcare workers wear it, other people shouldn't get it. I was like,
Well,
of course they're,
That came out of Fauci's
yeah.
mouth as he talked
Well,
about.
I'm
That's
not
why he
arguing.
said that.
Have I said one nice thing about Fauci? No, no. I don't really, again, things change quickly and dynamics change. And especially in a situation like COVID, it was such a unique experience. Had never really, I mean, I guess the polio vaccine was about as what it was, but it wasn't even like this. So, admittedly, the spread rate of COVID spread like wildfire. And we realized that quickly. Were mistakes made? Fucking A, mistakes were made. But it's easy, just like anything in hindsight, just like we were talking about washing our hands, back to that. When people wash their hands before childbirth, it makes fucking all the sense in the world. It's common sense now. But that guy used to get laughed out of the fucking delivery room. People wouldn't do it. Doctors would be like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But over time, that he was proven right. It's easy to look back and go, yeah, all those doctors that were laughing at him, they're fucking idiots. They weren't idiots. They were living in a time and a place, and they took new information that was being presented to them, and they, again, you could try something that but it may be different. He could have said, you know what, smearing shit all over your hands works. Of course, it sounds like a dumb idea, but what if they found out it did? I mean, who knew? Who knew that we could penicillin from mold? Who fucking knew that that was going to be a thing that actually worked? I'm
I
sure when that fucking came around, it was laughable.
I don't like I said, I'm not distrusting it. I'm not saying vaccines aren't that. I'm not saying that this one isn't that either. I just don't like
Mm,
the aspect of trying to say that you are going to do this.
yeah.
And that's what I don't like is that it would be a double standard if I said that
Mhm.
that can be allowed, but then everything else
Yeah.
can't. I'm pro people making the decisions and taking whatever risk that they because they're the person in charge of their life. I'm not there. I can't do that. That's what my whole stance is. When it was
Yeah.
started to be forced in some aspects of things, is when I was starting to be like, now this is very very weird. You saw a lot of people. My buddy, for instance, working 6 years for a company, is going to have to leave his job because he doesn't want to get this thing. And they're saying, well, all government employees have to get this. So there's a bunch
Yeah.
of people quitting with them. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not in support of people quitting their jobs and doing this, but I also don't think people should be regulated on some aspects of control. I think you got to be a person with your own choices. I mean, if you've made it this far in life on your own decisions, and the government was never there to pick you up when you fucking fell. So I don't see the point of them doing this now on the aspect of that it's protection. I don't know. I get a very weird vibe about Fauci, and I've seen too much lying now that's been proven. Where they did the second trial with him and showed that, oh no, that's you guys said it differently. We thought you meant this. It actually is that, but it's this way. It's like legal speak, and I get it. It's covering your own ass, but I think at the same time, I just look at it like it seems slimy to me. It just seems untruthful, and after from the mask thing saying, "Oh no, it doesn't do anything," and then next thing you know, people stopped wearing masks and they brought it back. I just go, I get it. I mean, I thought in the beginning they did something. I still think they do something. Obviously, it has to. It's something covering your
Yeah.
fucking face. But I just the flip floppy, the back and forth. I'm like, you lost the trust now, and
Yeah.
it's like I know
I,
a lot about government stuff to where my trust is already displaced from the start.
I don't disagree with you on that, and I do think that there's been some bad sales pitches. The mask being one of them. I think masks work to a small degree, even any mask, because like you said, I think the N95s probably work to a better degree. Even having a mask though, if I'm sitting in a restaurant and I sneeze and I don't cover my sneeze. Now, the restaurant's a bad example because, of course, you don't need a mask in a restaurant, which is the most fucking ridiculous thing. If you need a mask, you need a fucking mask. Well, why suddenly you can go to a restaurant and it becomes this whole, oh, well,
Because
now
you
you're
can
safe because you're
protest and
eating
not have
food.
a mask either. You know
But
that.
but you see what I'm saying with well, there's a whole different aspect with outdoors and indoors. I never believed that masks were necessary outdoors. I
At
found
those
that to be
Black Lives Matter
ridiculous.
protests, and all these people are standing side by side, and the governor's like, "This is okay. This is different." And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
There
It,
has not been, to my knowledge, a
I'll pull
super
up a picture.
spreader event that has been solely managed outside. It's not been outside. They've been inside. There's been an inside aspect to it.
I'm gonna
The
Google it on the show.
Yeah. So, but no, I agree with you. I think some of it's. I think
It's
the
like the
sales
same
pitch was
thing
wrong.
when that guy, who's his name, Carl something, the conservative guy, they called him the black face of white supremacy. And you're like, what just happened? That's how society's gotten to. This person was saying this event's okay. It's like what? Because it was
Yeah.
a protest. None of these politicians want to say anything that's going to refute their votes. That's the whole thing is they just
No,
want to get
and
reelected again.
right, but it is the sales pitch. And do masks work? Yeah, I don't. If I sneeze in an enclosed space, it's not going to get nearly as far if I have a mask on versus if I didn't. So yes, technically, maybe somebody across the room, but if you're close to me, you're going to get it anyway because the germs are still going to spread in a close vicinity. Sales pitch was wrong on masks. There's no doubt, and that was a big pitch too. Is remember when they're talking about when you get the vaccine? Oh, get the vaccine, and now you can get together with your relatives without a mask, and then all of a sudden it's like maybe you should wear a mask again. It's like it does, and regardless of what our beliefs are on mask effectiveness, when you do sell something, they sold it as a way to get more people vaccinated. I totally agree with that. And I think the sales pitch was wrong. But at the same time, I'm sitting here vaccinated and I don't wear a mask. Tennessee, nobody wears a fucking mask. It's been wide open here for a year. But yeah, as far as that goes, I'm vaccinated. And like you said, I'm taking my safety. I believe in the vaccines. I also believe that they help me. At least if I were to get it, it's going to buttress the effects of it. And that's the way I feel. And again, my big thing is I think it would be a different argument about forced vaccinations, and I'm not for forced vaccinations. However, a company wants to, if a private company says that you should have vaccinations, that's their right. That's their right, and they can make that
Does
decision.
New York Times count as a viable source?
Hmm? Uh, you know what? I'd have to read two or three different things. Again, I don't trust anything too much. What's up with the New York Times?
Are protests dangerous? Why does it say? What experts say may depend on who's protesting what. Public health experts decried the anti lockdown protests as dangerous gatherings in a pandemic. Yes, there are people gathering talking about they were anti lockdown, but then when it came to the same exact protests, they were calling anti lockdown ones as dangerous. But then the Black Lives Matter ones, there were nothing about them being dangerous, even though it was basically the kind of different concept, same amount of
Yeah.
people. This is the anti
Yeah.
lockdown ones.
Oh, I see a lot of masks there. But yeah, it regardless. I mean, I think the trick is that
That's still like even if masks aren't 100% effective as well too. But I
yeah.
mean,
But outdoor versus indoor, I've always been a big proponent, or I won't say opponent, of wearing a mask. If it's an enclosed space, I'd probably wear a mask, especially back then. Now it's a different question, but back then, still with things that were, if they did help, I would probably still wear one. But that was in a very very enclosed space. If you're outside, even if you're 6 feet, 10 feet apart, you have an infinite amount of air. If you're inside, you have a limited amount of air. And I don't think that people understand the number infinity versus limited, regardless of how limited is.
I think honestly, at this point where I stand with it is you just got to you can't be
Yeah.
afraid. At least I'm not going to be any afraid anymore. If people want to, they want to. But I see people
Yeah.
that wear a mask in their car, get out, and then wipe the door handle and do all that type of
Yeah.
stuff. I
More
just
power
get
to them.
nervous. I'm like, how much of your life are you going to be doing this to where you might this we don't know when it's going to end. We say a couple years, but we don't know if it just keeps going and going and going and going. I mean, the Pfizer makes a 3 point something million. Not it's not a million. It's got to be billions. Something yearly on this vaccine thing. And I go, hey man, if they keep adding a shot every year, keep saying you got to take it one to every 3 years. Fauci says you may never gather at Christmas, this coming up Christmas, you might be able to. I just get to this point where I'm like, I feel like I need to live my life. I'm not going to spend a whole lot
Yeah.
of time being worried about it. I work at a gym, haven't gotten it yet. So, and I don't know a whole lot of people that have. And then you quarantine as such. I think there's effective ways of doing this, but I don't want to stop. Like people already spend too much time not being who they want to be, not thinking how they want to think because they model it off of something that they've seen, where it just gets into my mind of like, I don't know. I feel like this is another thing that affects those things. I mean, everything now turns into a vaccine conversation.
Yeah, it does. And yeah, we talked about we want to talk about vaccine, and we're sitting here talking about it. I think the truth is that yeah, it's a at some point, especially with COVID as it currently is, you got to live your life. I do know some people that are still taking it more seriously than I do. Being in Tennessee, maybe that's why my guard's down, and because I feel safe with my vaccine status, maybe that's why my guard's down. But I don't feel I
I'm
never
not
like
gonna,
going in
I'm
close.
not gonna vaccine
Yeah,
shame you. Like I don't
yeah,
understand that
no,
argument
no,
either.
I don't really get that either. But I'm not sitting here shaming you for not having it either. I mean, if you made that decision, it is what it
I
is. I
also
mean,
don't take Tylenol, so
well, I don't take Tylenol either. So there you go.
I don't take anything that I like my body to naturally defeat its enemies.
I agree with you 100%. I sporadically like my arm's been jacked up for some reason over the last 6 months or so, and every once in a while at night, or even if I wake up in the middle of the night, my
When it
arm's hurting.
rains,
I'll take one Advil, but I won't even take two Advil. I'll take one Advil, and that's I just don't. I try not to take anything to disguise pain or hide the fact that I've got problems. It's not a good way to go through life.
I just think you need to your body needs to recover on things naturally. Now, there's obviously
It does.
examples where you need it, like if your testin doesn't work or something. It's like
Yeah.
a genetic thing or some type of
Well,
thing that,
anti-inflammatories are going to be helpful.
yeah.
I've had an infection, and to take I've had to take antibiotics for an infection. I'm not going to not take antibiotics because I'm sitting here high and mighty on my cliff, but sometimes you do have to take things to help your body, help your body's immune system. But to take things just to disguise pain, that's how people get addicted to heroin, meth, opioids, whatever. And I don't find that to be effective at all.
Kind of interested to see where psychedelics lead into the pharmacology aspect of things. Now, I've talked to a bunch of people a while back, almost a year ago, about psychedelics, and now you're seeing a lot of research with John Hopkins and all these institutions that are now using psychedelics to treat people with PTSD, like microdosing. Are having like major like kind of I think recently also as well too they developed something that was able to help out with Alzheimer's, like that's a first
Yeah, I've
ever.
heard
They're
about that.
starting to see positive effects from some type of medicine that they're using now. Now
Yeah,
with psychedelics, for instance, I was talking. Her name was Joya Hall. She was on my show. She had a suicide disease, which is a disease that just makes you. I think it makes you black out randomly. So it's like you just fall down a flight of stairs if you're
that's
walking
it.
downstairs. So she has like it's a. I forgot. I don't want to misdiag or mis talk about what she has, but something like that, psychedelics helped her. And a lot of people have had really major experiences with these things where she's leading the charge in Nova Scotia to legalize psychedelic mushrooms and all these types of things because they're seeing major benefits from it. It doesn't mean take a whole thing and go fucking nuts. It just means microdose. People are having major kind of turnaround in personality disorders, schizophrenia, so many different benefits where I'm looking at like, I wonder what that charge is going to be. Like, I would rather people take psychedelics than take fucking pharmaceuticals in some aspects because
It's
they
there.
grip you
Yeah,
too hard.
yeah. A lot of them. It depends on the psychedelic. It's some of them are going to be, I'm sure, made with more natural.
Ron White quit drinking because of Asquanda, whatever the fucking drug name is.
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. He quit drinking because of ayahuasca.
Yeah, I'm sure that some natural remedies exist. I've never smoked pot,
Neither have I.
and I've never done
Well, I've
anything
smoked pot.
marijuana related.
It's
Okay, well,
fucking
I see. I don't.
horrible.
That's
It's horrible. God damn it.
bad pot,
Never again.
seeds and shit.
Jesus Christ. It's
But
like if
but
I
no,
smoke salt nick in my vape, it fucking
but
makes your brain black out.
but it's I mean, just over the last 10, 15 years, they're starting to realize there are medical positive medical effects from ways that marijuana is used and things. And you can say what you want to about the messaging. We were talking about mask messaging, but let's go back to the messaging of marijuana back when, because of the tobacco companies, they did
Wacky
everything they
tobacco.
could. Yeah, they did everything they could to shit all over marijuana. And the truth is, it may not be as bad as people thought it was. It may not be great depending on how much you use it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor and I haven't looked at the research, but I can say that there do seem to be positive outcomes using marijuana and extracts from marijuana plants. So, more power to it. Again, this all goes back to science, man. You got to learn, you got to be open to things. You got to find out what works and what doesn't. There's going to have to be some guy that raises his hand and be like, I'll fucking try that for my PTSD. Give me some LSD for it. It might work. Maybe it fucking works. I don't know.
You just can't
But
put trust the science on fucking flat earth shit. I see that everywhere now. Everyone's
well,
like,
that's different.
hashtag trust the science. I'm like, fuck off. You're not a scientist. Like, just what it gets me. I talk to so many academics that are like, this whole trust the science thing. Why is everybody against it? It's like, because everything's trust the science. They hashtag it in their episodes to make sure that everyone just looks at it.
It's flat earth, not to offend any flat earther that may be listening to your show, but yeah, there's a better hill to die on than the flat earth hill. I'll put it that way. And if it's a flat earth, you don't die on the hill, you die on the fucking flat plane anyway. So fuck it.
There's no hills on the flat.
That's right. I mean, literally think about it. It's an argument. If you go upstairs, if you walk up the stairs in your home, the earth's not flat. It's at best, it's still 3 dimensions. So now at best, it's a big fucking square or rectangle. It's not even flat. Can't be. Just can't be.
My argument was that north and up are not the same exact thing.
No, they're not. So
he was like, what are you talking about? My buddy's a flat earther. And we were having a whole debate. I'll have to send you that episode. We were having a whole debate about it for like a good 3 hours where I'm sitting there like, how? Like, I'm listening. I'm open-minded as hell, but Jesus Christ, I'm sitting there like, you're not giving me, he keeps bringing it to some other argument. I'm like, stop, go back to the fucking point we're doing the episode about.
Tell Michael Jordan that it's fucking flat earth because he'd never dunk a basketball. You can't fucking dunk a basketball if the earth's flat.
How though? It's just jumping. If the plane's flat, I can still jump.
Yeah, but you know what? Where's the rim? It's not on the fucking ground.
It's in the air.
So something is saying that there's a dimension to it.
A flat earth is just talking about like the idea that it's just a flat plane. There is a sky and everything that includes like, so it's like a rectangle that's just flat. You ever see a picture of the flat earth?
No. Why would I?
It doesn't look fucking normal.
Of course it doesn't.
It stemmed because NASA in the beginning lied to everybody when they showed the pano view of the Earth. They CGI'd clouds to make it look prettier. And then people are like, if they lied about that, they're lying to us now. And they just keep going. And I'm like, this is why we talk about trust, man. We got to have some systems set in place that bring up trust again.
Oh, yeah. Flat earthers. Yeah, whatever. What?
I'll die on the Mr. Rogers hill, though. Holy shit, dude. I was talking to a guy who studies religious. I say Mr. Rogers is probably like a cross-dresser, which isn't bad, but he was hiding a secret. I get off vibes about that man. Like he was hiding something, like a pent-up aggression thing or some type of thing. But I was talking to a professor of religious studies. Then he goes, well, I've also studied Mr. Rogers for 4 years. I was like, oh, we're about to let this fucking go down this rabbit hole. Because I've been talking about it since like episode 100 that he was a fucking something off about that man.
There's something off about all of us. I mean, Mr. Rogers has his secrets. I have my secrets. You got
but
your
he's dead,
secrets,
and I can't figure it out.
It's okay. You know what? It's not your business, man. It's his business. Mr. Rogers' business, and whoever he's having sexual relationships with, it might be their business. Not my business. Not your business. Fuck it. Let him have his thing.
It's the tabloids' business.
It's not the tabloids' business.
Feed it to the wolves.
Let Mr. Rogers wear his women's underwear. Good for him. You know, if it feels better on his crotch, more power to him.
I don't even want to picture that. There's like that girl that I think her name's like Kim Smile or something. She made new bikini wear, and a woman wore like an actual like bikini over or under the actual the Kim Smile bikini wear. Doesn't even fucking cover up shit. She was like, this is giving me a fucking wedgie. So if this was actually hitting my no square, it would fucking go up there. This, what the fuck is this? I don't know what, and like, it's just as little as possible, kind of like just wearing like a piece of floss.
Yeah.
And it was like it's just interesting. I was like, oh, at least we're not the only one that are noticing this shit. Like, I can't be comfortable. I always wonder that when I see someone wear like a wool sweater. I'm like, that can't be fucking comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a wool sweatersman.
That's all I got, Mike. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
my show. Sorry, it
Oh
went
no,
down to
thanks
some.
for having me.
We
It's
always
it's
get
always
down
a
to some
pleasure.
politics stuff. I enjoy it because we can actually have like a general discourse about things without it getting like, I fucking hate your guts.
No, it's you know what? Opinions are like assholes. I think I said this on your show. Everybody's got one, and a lot of times nobody wants to see anybody else's. But really, you know, especially political opinions. But it's
Unless you got taint pics, send me a taint pic.
oh man, I'm completely shaved and bleached. I'm pretty, so pretty, so pretty. So now but
Best
no,
horse in the race.
thanks for having me on, Rob. This is always a pleasure. It's always a lot of fun, and it is fun to talk about those things without getting argumentative. I mean, you have your opinions, I have my opinions. Just is what it is, and just, again, we'll probably have because we both like to learn and listen. Maybe next time we talk, we'll have different opinions because we'll try to be better educated about one. Maybe we find our position in the middle, or maybe one of us comes to the other side. I mean, we don't fucking know, but that's what time and research. That's all we can do. So try to figure it out. I think we all want what's best for us and what's best for our families.
Can that's a. How about say I was going to join the conservatives if you guys offered like donuts or something?
Hey,
Hop in the
whatever.
mix. Where can people find your show? Still Whack Brackets, or you just want to promote the other one?
You know what? You can go to Wack Brackets. You won't see a lot of posting, but you can go to Multiverse of Badness on Instagram, or you can go to Multiverse of Bad on Twitter. I'm out there posting dumb comic book stuff
Are
for
you running
Zach
the
and I.
page?
Yeah.
Okay, because I follow the Twitter.
Yeah. I've got an Instagram page and a Twitter page for it. So got a few posts.
Can't lose contact.
No, you know where to find me. I'm pretty easy to find. So.
Perfect. All right, I'll link it all in the description. Thanks for listening to this episode. Out of the blank. Stay tuned for next
See you, Robbie.
episode.